How's it going, guys? This is Coach Lampert with A&A Titans, Argonia, Attica, South Central Kansas, Acacia, 8-man Division I football. We're going to talk defense. 3-2 monster. You can get a copy of this PowerPoint, or if you got any questions, you can reach me at my email, tlampert@argonia359.org. You can also catch me on my Twitter at Lampwick. Or if you want to reach out, you can also find me on Instagram at Sir Lampwick. Today we're going to get started. We're going to talk 3-2 monster defense and what it means for us to be a defensive first team in a rare situation with 8-man football that's very offensive minded, score first and score fast type of mentality. We like to quite frankly do the opposite, keep guys off the board and make plays for ourselves. Titan defense, our philosophy is pretty simple. We like great pursuit. We're going to work on it in practice. We're going to do it for conditioning. We're going to do it for a warm-up. And line of scrimmage awareness. We don't want to play deep in the backfield. We like to keep our linemen tight to the line of scrimmage. We like to have our backers play right behind the line of scrimmage. And the things that we have them do for us keeps big plays from happening, keeps minimal gains. Believe in strong tackling, 8 hats on the ball. That goes back to good pursuit. We work this reps in practice. We have cycles and circuits we work on a regular basis depending on the day of the week. And then we focus on tackling techniques that focus on our kids' ability. You'll notice some of that in the film I'm going to show. We don't have big guys per se. We don't have any bruisers. We've got 2 or 3 guys this last season that were 6 foot plus. So we're small, fast, quick guys. So we do a lot of that rugby style tackling or ankle style, ankle rolling, gator rolling as we like to call it. We also like to be fundamentally sound. Like I said, we're consistent in our practice routine. We work some of the same fundamental drills to start every defensive cycle every day. To the point sometimes we do run over from our offensive time. Fortunately, they're a quick scoring offense, so we do get a little leeway with the things that we've done so far this year. Like I said, daily circuits, daily game plan specific drills and techniques. Every week's different. Every Friday night, everybody else has a different scheme. We try to practice and plan for that in our preparation on a regular basis. Just kind of like what we've done this year is our second year running the 3-2 monster. 9-2 record. That's over 800 win percentage. Sectional runner-up, regional champs, district champs. It's the first time we've won the district since 2015 with our state runner-up squad. 4-time regional champs now. We've been to sectionals 4 times. 2 of those was our back-to-back state squads back in 14 and 15. Points against, second best all time. For what it's worth, we've been together for 8 years now. We combined, so we had enough guys to play 8-man football instead of dropping to 6 back in 13. So 164 points a game out of 11 games, which is pretty solid for us. Second best all time, like I said. We're +6 in the turnover margin. You'll see a large number of assists versus solos. That goes back to what we talk about with our gang tackling, 8 hats on the ball. The solid turnover margin. We had multiple district and state team selectees. I think all of our guys got at least first or second team all district. We had a unanimous first team all state and all state honorable mention as well. We sent 2 guys to Kansas, what we call our 8-man all-star game, which is the equivalent to 11-man all-star games. So it was a very successful year for us in terms of statistics, win percentage, school records. This is the type of season you'd like to try to repeat and build off of moving forward. Position type guys are strong. We play strong in a weekend. Our strong side's a stronger run player. You can set the edge really well. Typically, we like to have both our DNs crash down on our on offensive ends pretty hard. One thing we don't have, or we don't identify, is a offensive tackle. So we have center, guard, and end. So if you hear me saying end, we are talking about the end man on the line of scrimmage, not a split out receiver. So we ask them to take on pulling linemen, fullbacks. Our weekend, what makes them a little special is they have a good ability to rush the passer, but they can also still squeeze down the B gap from the outside. Our nose, we like it one of two ways. Bonus if he can play two gaps. We had a guy like that this year. He was our All-State honorable mention. Big enough to come in a double team. Last year we had a kid 6'7", 310. He did that. Our linebackers flew around. Last year we had two of the top leading tackle getters in 8-man and state all classes, 11-man, 8-man, 6-man. So we like to have a guy that's quick enough to get penetration and disrupt the backfield. Like I said, we had a bonus this year. We had a two-gap player. And we had a guy that rotated in that was a quick guy that I described here as well. Our Sam, he's our strong side guy. He's going to be better at taking on blocks. He's a strong tackler. He plays well in the box. Our weak side is our Will. He's athletic. He is a dependable tackler. Plays well in space. And you'll see on film we have a guy that we like to keep out in space. And one guy that's better against the run. We tend to keep him in the box. He's a strong coverage backer. Our Mike, or our monster, he's the guy. As far as skill goes, he's the best guy on the field. He's the guy we want to be making all the tackles or in on all the tackles all the time. Our best overall, like I said, best overall guy, good in space. And if he's athletic enough, we'll ask him to cover deep and cover short. He is our whole player, and I'll get to that too. Our safeties, we don't ask much of them. We ask that they're strong in coverage, don't get beat deep. When they got to come up to make a tackle, they do it confidently. Our base alignments. So versus a balanced line set, we're talking true 5-man line or a 3-man line. Our nose is going to play head up. He's an A-gap player. Either side, typically he tends to take the weak side A, and we let our Mike play the strong. But that really, we can play games with that. It's really up to those two guys on how they want to do that on a regular basis. Our Sam and Will, we tend to play them at a 20 and a 30. So we're playing head up to outside shoulder of the guards, about 3 to 5 yards. And we ask them to play the B gap with the ball 2, cut back and flow away when the ball is away from them. Strong and weak side ends, typically ask them to play in a tight 5 or even a 4-eye, depending on what they like to run on offense. We ask them to crash the B from the outside and have them set the edge on outside runs. Our Mike, he's playing head up the center. He's playing a little deeper than our two linebackers. He's playing about 4 to 6. We have him play alley the ball 2, and we ask him to scrape on anything outside. So, and we'll get to what that means here in a minute as well. Safeties versus an even line, we're talking 5-man, or I'm sorry, balanced line set. 5-man, they're going to play outside leverage 2 yards by 7. They're going to force the ball inside out, all right, versus outside run. And then we will ask them to be a secondary, late fill in the B or the C gap, depending on what offense is running. I've got some examples of that on film as well. And they've got flow away. They're actually not our last resort tackle. Our weak side or our opposite side end is going to be that guy. This will be our next to last man to hopefully stop him from scoring. Versus an unbalanced line, we're talking 4-man line. The 6-man, we play that a little different. We'll bump over and we'll identify a guard as a center, and we'll still align more towards a balanced set line. But that kind of takes away from our base offense, our base defense. So we're not really going to get into that. Knows who's going to shade to the strength. He's still an A-gap player. Weak side in, he's going to be a loose 3, and he's still going to crash him at the edge. His responsibilities don't change. Strong side in, he's still on a 5 or a 4-eye, depending on what we're looking at. And his gap responsibility doesn't change at all. Safeties, safety 2, split outside. He's going to play inside leverage at the same depth and same width, 2x7. The only difference there is he's going to force outside in. He's going to force everything back inside to the pursuit. And moving forward, our line sets that we see are our base strength calls. Everything we do, we line up based off lines first, and we look at field, we look at boundary, we look at formation. But this is where we begin to make our calls, make our strengths, make our pressures, our blitzes. Blitzes is one thing we will not get into. If you have any questions about that and you want to talk about that, I gave my information. We can talk about that on another time. Keys and fits, like I said earlier, we want to set the edge. We don't want to get hooked. We don't want to get blocked in the zone block. If the end release is vertical, we want to jam that end up. We always want to put hands on the end. We do not ever want to let him get a free release, especially with play action. Play action is big when you have run first linebackers. So our ends are our first line against play action. We're not so much, we'll contain the quarterback and we will get sacks because our coverage is good, but we can't let the end get a free release. We're going to also ask our ends to blow up any pulling guards or take on a fullback. Sam Wills, we're reading guards to backfield action. Like I said, they're playing B gap. Our Mike's playing A to alley. Guard pulls, we're going to ask them to scrape over the top where they can bleed in behind. One of our guys you'll see on film, he's really good at it. He's also our leading tackler this year. Backfield keys, we're looking at, if we're talking shotgun, we're talking whether it's a 2-back set or a 1-back set, we're going to cross key that, especially with a lot of things we've seen, zone, read, quarterback counter. We'll have our guys cross key, and we'll have our ends read the mesh, and we'll talk about some of that in option responsibilities as well. Safety, we're going to key the end. That's our first key, and then whether he's an end or split out as a receiver, that's our first key. We're reading back to backfield action, back to our receiver or the end. So I call it a 3-step rule. So their first 3 steps are backwards, as they should be in the defensive secondary. And they're reading those keys. And like I said, they're forced back inside, flow away, and late, gap, contain, or run support. Option responsibilities, nose, obviously, is always going to be a dive player. Depending on what we see, if we see a triple, the linebacker 2 will have the dive, and we'll have the end take the quarterback. And almost always has quarterback unless the quarterback shows us back to him. Then he's playing down the line, he's playing dive, or that's about all he's going to play, or he's going to take a block, pulling guard because they're running a counter. Mike, he's playing alley to the quarterback, 2-pitch. So you'll see he kind of runs, if you're a 4-2-5 guy, maybe you've heard, running like a banana type of angle. That's essentially what we want our Mike to do. Also, before I forget to mention, speed option, our end is still playing quarterback and always has quarterback. Will and Sam will have quarterback 2-pitch. Like I said, the Mike's coming. So if our linebacker overplays it, the Mike's there to clean it up. Speed option, quarterback to pitch for the Mike. Safety's playing pitch to quarterback. And his angle will vary depending on offensive alignment. So he's either outside in or inside out. We'll kind of get into some examples of that as we get rolling here. So base alignment here, this is what we're working with. This is an I formation, something we'll see a lot of power set. And what you'll see here is we're playing our linebackers are playing at about 3 yards. Mike's at about 5. Safeties are at about 7. We're playing 5 tech, and we're playing head up nose. So this is what we look like versus an unbalanced set. Some semantics about 8 men. You have to have 3 men in the backfield and 5 on the line of scrimmage. Formation here. He's on. He's off. Here's our 3. That makes this end eligible right here. So you can have a 3-4-man route. Typically, 3's about the most you'll see. To be honest with you, a 1 or a 2-man route combination, the way we play football around here, seems to be the most effective, especially if you get play action and you can max protect. It actually gave us some trouble one-on-one matchups. It didn't happen often, but it is what it is. When you get a one-on-one matchup, it's you versus them. So alignments first is spread here. We see a lot of spread teams. We're talking 2x1 sets, whether it's a nub end and 2 split out or 2 out with a split out on the weak side. You'll see what we'll have our Sam do, or our coverage backer, is he's going to apex the slot receiver, the number 2 with the man on the line of scrimmage, and he's still going to be at his depth. We'll slide the mic over to the guard. He's going to be inside or head up that guard to the 2x side. The wheel, he's going to play normal alignment on the backside. Safety is going to split 1 and 2. Still playing 2x7. I don't know if you noticed here. We can talk about it here. My safeties here, they're going to play with their butts to the boundary, and they're going to shuffle and then inside turn and run. Ideally, we like to pin outside receivers between us and the boundary, especially if we have things coming outside and we'll get into our zone and it'll make a little bit more sense. The way we run our cover 2, it helps us being able to crash down on anything underneath, especially if we have quick inside routes from our number 1s. Moving on. So he's going to, if on the backside, if we have a nub on the backside, he's still going to be, he'll be head up or normal 2x7, split out. It's still, like I said, at 7 yards. If and when we have a split out receiver, we'll look to give a solo call. And this will hold true on most one-on-one matchups on the weak side. And we're going to ask our safety to take anything vertical and out. Anything quick inside, mostly shallow crosses, we can pass off and we can sink for depth and look for something coming back over the middle of the field, especially a deep post, coming back across, or help with anything vertical. And then with a slant, for example, we'll have him stay over the top and try to crash down on it and either disrupt it or maybe get a pick, knowing that we can crash because we still have underneath help from that weak side linebacker, that will linebacker. But moving on. So here's what we look like versus spread. We've got a nub there at the top of the screen. We're apexed here as best we can. So we're looking at our 2x set here. We're split between 1 and 2, bust to the boundary. Okay, we got a pistol look. Ends over here is eligible. Here's another example. This team you're going to see a lot, especially on film. The basketball coach, so he's very spread oriented. So you're going to see a lot of good looks as far as when we discuss passes and our pattern reading for our cover 2. You'll see a lot of examples from this game. And there's a couple other games you'll see a lot of good examples from for what we do out of our base defense. So what we'd call here, as far as a strength call, we'd give a Liz. All right. So that's just to set our deal. It really basically tells our ends where they're going to line up at this point and where our Will and our our Will and our Mike are going to be. Alignments versus empty sets. The only real difference between the two, between an empty set and what we call spread, is what our Will and our Mike do in space. Sam's going to heat apex number 2 versus 2x2 set. So his responsibility and his drops don't change. Like I said, verse 2x2 will apex the wheel out to the other side. If it is a 3x1 set, we'll tend to leave him head up or shaded weak at the center, especially if we have a nub in. Also to mention with the Sam versus a 3x1, he'll split the difference between 2 and 3. And then 2x2, we'll go back to that with the Mike. He's going to be head up at the center there, and he's going to help either spy the quarterback, be our force player, or he can drop. We can have him be a whole player, whether it's stopping anything from coming across a shallow middle, or we can have him play deep. It really just depends on the route combinations that we see. And versus a 3x1, he's going to apex to the strength between the number 3 and the M-man on the line of scrimmage. Safeties, I mean, nothing changes really for them, like I mentioned in the previous slide. So that's all the same. Like I said, he will be responsible for a solo call if he's singled up backside, especially in a 3x1 set with a split out. He has essentially got himself on an island. If we have motions across the formation, jet motions a lot. One we see a lot, especially play action, or just something to get the defense to shift to get numbers where the offensive wants it. A lot of guys and a lot of teams in our area run a lot of man, and that's kind of why we don't, because it gives a lot of teams fits when we run a zone. But what we'll do is we'll slide our linebacker and we'll just replace across the formation and have that. If it makes it all the way across, we'll just have the wheel bump out. And I've got some examples of that you'll see here in a minute too. And then, like I said, when they bumps, we'll just replace in the box. We can also have an overhang if we have a motion, and we can bump our end over to a head up 4i or even to a 2i, depending on what we see. So here's an example. I talk about overhang. This is an empty formation. We have a 3x1 with the nub. And so what we did here is we just, and this one's on film as well. We bumped our end to head up and we kept an overhang player, and we did that a few times. And you'll see it both looks here. And then in case you're wondering, this nub end here, we will not solo call. We'll play that with our normal responsibilities. It's only really when he split out wide, in case you were wondering. Here's another example, same game. You'll see a lot of examples from this game as well, where we ran a lot of base. We didn't have to scheme too much against these guys. We were able to come up and just run our base alignments, and we had a pretty successful look. But this is an example of just having an empty, no motion. We're talking empty set here. We got it's a 2x2 with a tight end on the right side of the formation. We talk cover 2 pattern reading. Start with our Mike. We like to have him read 2 to 1, whether it's 2 out wide or we got 1 split out with an end. We'll look to read that end to the split out, or that slot to that split out receiver. Or if we have a 3x1 look, we're going to read that number 3 receiver to the number 2. Once again, that can be an end on that side with 2 split out off the line. We like him to cover the seam, number 3 vertical or number 2 vertical. We'll have him cover the hole in the defense, depending on what route combinations we see. If we see things going out, we'll have him cover the hole, look for something coming back in, because it's going to take the Sam or the Will to the flat, which kind of segues into what the Sam and Will do. They're curl to flat players. They will look sometimes, which sets them up to take wheels. So if they're reading curl to flat, they will run with wheels, anything like that. We ask them to make collision with slants, make collision with anything vertical. We'll ask them to just carry and exchange any crossing routes. So that means we'll let the Mike pick it up in the hole. or we'll let it send all the way across and we'll look for something coming back and pick that up as well. And then if our zone's empty and we can force, we'll go play force out of contain, but typically our Mike is our primary force player when the quarterback breaks contain. Safety, he's reading 1 to 2. That doesn't really change unless he's got a solo call. Or if he's on the backside with the nub end, he's not really too worried about anything. He'll read that nub end, and then depending on what he gets from the nub, he'll look to the middle of the field or he'll take it vertical. So we're going to ask him, like I said, we're going to ask our guys to play deep halves to flat. Obviously, we're running cover 2, so we don't want to get beat deep. We'll have them crash hitches, slants, and outs by number 1 and by alignment. Then looking at our reads, like I said, safety has vertical threat first. No vert. Then he's looking to pattern read. If 1 goes away, he's looking for 2 coming back out. There, the safety there and the Mike or the Will. Sam, they'll talk it out. They'll exchange the route, tell them what's coming in, what's coming out, basic talk. Mike, Will, and Sam, we want to wall off the middle of the field. That's the weak part in our coverage. We're going to push with 2 vertical until 1 comes back, and then we'll exchange it with the safety unless we get 2 verts, we get wheels, something that's going to carry out of our zone and up. Typically, we see a lot of wheels and verticals. 1 will run vert, 2 will run a wheel, and our Will or our Mike or our Sam will have to cover with that. So if 2's out, we're looking for 1 coming back in from our linebackers. No 1 will continue to flat. 1 shows the safety can crash, we can carry it on over. 2's out and up. Like I said, we'll run with the wheel, and the Mike will pick up anything that comes back in. That's why he's our hole player. Like I said, if we need to, we can drop our Mike deep and play a deep hole and let shallow be underneath so we can run more of a cover 3 look or a thirds look. We don't do that too often on a regular basis. That's definitely more of a late game thing, or if we pattern read into it out of a 3x1 set. So here we go. We're talking doubles here. Actually, if you look, we're actually going to get a motion. He's actually set the motion, and then we would just slide this over. And depending on where he snaps the ball will kind of depend on how far he comes into the box and how far he needs to move, because he really doesn't need to go far here, Mike, because we've got numbers on the strong side. We actually going to call this a Liz. So here's our Sam, or our better coverage backer. So we're set here by alignment to where he doesn't have to chase that motion all the way across and try to get over the top. Here's another example. Here's a trips bunch look. Here we got a rip call. We got our linebacker. He's going to play head up or a bit inside in the number 2. We call this our number 1. So safety's going to play it deep. We're going to apex inside and cheat a little bit. We got our Mike here right in the middle. Here's a 3x1 set with a nub end. Here, this is where it's important we get hands on. He's vertical. Our safety's going to take it. If he's out, we can crash. We got the middle of the field walled off. If he's quick inside, we'll let it go, and our safety will drift back towards the middle of the field looking for anything coming across from number 3. Here's our Mike. He can look to play. He's going to play 3 to 2, playing 2 to 1, playing 1 to 2 with our safety upside at the far side of the field. Obviously, the first threat is vertical. If we get vert by 1 and 2, our Sam and our safety, they're going to take that. And our Mike will look to pick up anything that falls outside. So he'll become the flat player. If it's inside, we'll just exchange and look for something coming back, and he'll sink for depth. He can become the force player if everything goes away from him. All right, I got tight and a wide here for you. We'll start with the wide, and we'll show some tight. Full disclosure, some of these clips, the wide's not really going to be there, so we're going to look at the focus on the tight. But here's just some examples. A couple are just some examples of us filling inside run. Linebacker's coming down to the B gap, taking it with his inside shoulder, and you'll see the Mike scrape. and the backside linebacker follow. I highlighted where the play's going so you know where to look. Excuse me. You see here, I told you two-way player with our nose. He's going to do a good job standing up, and he's going to help make the play. See, we come downhill. One thing I forgot to mention is that this guard here, this is going to be crude, is right up to us. We're looking to fill our gap right away. If we get this look, down block, from a guard in the end, we're going to look to fill our gap right away. And we have a scrape here. Our Mike can scrape, and we can squeeze here with our end. So he's going to squeeze down. He'll fill, and he can scrape over. And there's some good examples of that you'll see here just in a little bit. Will comes over, a little too eager, but he's actually, that kid right there led the team in tackles for us this year. Him and our Mike last year were top 5 and 8 man, with our Mike being the top 2 in the entire state of Kansas with over 175 tackles. And our Will there, number 30, he had last year 157. The boys make plays. We're going to look to see here a bit of an ISO look. All right. So we're going to have the guard block down and try to hook our end, which is why we're going to have him crash. And our linebacker is going to have to take on this fullback coming up. This is where we have our Mike scrape the alley. This is where we also hope our nose can command a double team or be disruptive. And this is also the type of scenario where we expect our safeties to come up and make confident tackles. Now, we don't expect them to make plays for no gain, but 3 to 5 yards, that's expected. That's what we ask for. Anything better than that is an attaboy. But that's where we expect our safeties to make plays. See, he fills. Mike's going to scrape. Safety's coming up. Our end there. He's our all-state unanimous selection. He does a good job getting off his block. And you'll see it here. We'll go through it. So we getting a double here. Here. Like I said, ISO, the fullback's coming to kick out our linebacker. Perfect setup here. Here comes our Mike scraping over into the A. Safety's reading. He's going to come down here. We got the edge set by our end. Now, he don't take it on in the most prettiest way, but he does a serviceable job for us. Backside in ain't too far upfield. And our safety is looking to get across. Our other linebacker, he gets sucked in the wash, but the kid somehow always seems to find a way out of it. There, make our play. This one's not very good from the tight, but you'll see the same look here. Here we're going to have him set the edge, and he's going to bounce outside, and you're really going to see our safety come down and play inside out. This kid back here, their tailback's a 1,300-yard rusher, top 5 and 8 man last year as a junior, a spectacular runner. Good team we played in the regional round of the playoffs. So you'll see here, same look. He's working up to the linebacker. He's blocking down, looking to catch our Mike, and we're taking a one-on-one with the nose. Our guard here, this guard here is going to try to hook the linebacker And this actually backside end is going to try to work up to the safety. Which is why, right here, this example, this is why we have our ends crash down on theirs. Disrupts spacing, disrupts gaps, helps us set the edge. We stay tight to the line of scrimmage. Forces them to bounce. Safety and our defensive end are there to make the play. You look, we got 1, 2, there's 4 by the ball, 5 behind the goalpost, 6, 7, and 1's off screen. So that's pretty solid pursuit. Here it is, one more time. Oop. I have to edit that one out. So looking here, like I said, we're going to show another example of our safety playing the force from inside out. He really does a good job coming up and making a play. This is an attaboy. The only knock against this one is we get a face mask penalty on it. And you'll see it on the tight a lot better than you will the wide. But we have our end. He strings it out, sets the edge, stretches it out to the boundary. And it's just a good play outside the penalty from our safety. We know that our Mike isn't going to make everything, to battle. If it wasn't, every win would be a blowout. So sometimes the offense gets the best of us. They get to their blocks and seal us off in the box, which is why we ask our safeties to play this way. You'll see my other safety here. He's coming across the formation. He's not in a hurry to get there. He's looking for a cutback lane. Our end, though, he is too far in field, but that's neither here nor there. And at this angle, he's fast enough. If he's got to turn it upfield and make a play, he has that ability. So you'll see the safety come in late. We stretch it out. We block the end down. See the guard will come up. So we got to come downhill right now from the linebacker, fill the B. We set the edge, crash it down. We got to stretch it out with our against the fullback. Makes a good play, comes down. You see it. It's a pretty obvious face mask call. Here we go. We're looking at a split out look here. We got a rip call. We got a right call. We got one split out wide. This is an example of where we can solo it, but at the same time, we typically don't in this look because we have 3 linebackers in the box, so we can get that wheel out into that curl zone and pick off anything coming underneath. This gives us the ability to crash a slant because we have underneath help. So worst case scenario, you throw it right into the jaws of our defense. If he misses, most of the time we've had pretty good luck, which is why we play it the way we play it. But this is just a basic zone read. Like I said, we got 2 types of noses. This is one. We've got also, if you notice, we got an unbalanced front, so our nose is shifted over. Like I said, we got a rip call, so he's going to play a strong A gap, and he's just going to work one-on-one and fill his gap and make a play here. Reading, this end here is going to read. He'd play quarterback off if he came off. Linebacker here would take quarterback as well. To note here, I'll make this, I don't know if you've noticed between what you've seen in the slides or not, but because we play combined football with another school, we share home field sites. So some of the quality of coverage is better than others, depending on who's got the home game. Here we're looking at, like I said, we got a rip call. We get our nose aligned, an unbalanced line. Chip up to the mic. Nose makes a play. First playoff game of the playoffs here. 3 snow days in a row kept us from having a full week of practice. Came out Thursday, practiced, played on Friday, 45 them. When you 45 a team, when you're at 45 at halftime, you go home at the half. 45 them in the second half, game's over on the spot. Here we go. Here's one of those teams I was telling you about you'd see a lot examples from. So we're seeing just a basic zone read here. They're going to pull the weak guard here, kick out the end. They're going to block down. Pretty basic. But because it is a read look here, attacking the mesh, working the quarterback, they pull it, great. We got numbers to the strength. Makes a good read, we make a good play. Tackle better, but it is what it is. A rip call. I know our nose is not lined up, but he's hitting the right gap. Guard pulls, which brings this linebacker. He can bleed. He's going to block up, so we can kick this out and make a good play here. View here is not very good, but we'll make it work. So we got one split out. We got an even line. He's off, so he's eligible. He's eligible, and there's one at the top that's eligible as well. We're going to see a jet motion. We're running, still seeing zone. Because of the way our alignment's set up, all we're going to do is come back to a base formation. We don't need to bump anyone over because we got numbers, and basically now we got three in the backfield, so we treat it like we would any other formation. If you got all the way across, we'd just bump our safety over, and we'd still be able to have 6 in the box. Run zone here. Here's another look, a much better look. Actually send pressure here. I didn't mean to put that in there, but we call this a mic. We just send him in the A gap. Whoops. Have to edit that moment out. So we got, like I said, we got our jet motion. We're running zone at us here. All right, fake the zone, or excuse me, fake the jet, get the zone. We got a rip call. We're actually sending our mic into the A gap. We just call that mic. We designate either right or a left, or we let him in the nose decide what to do. There's a freebie on our pressures. Because of the way the quarterback's opening up to give this ball, our end there at the top of the screen can crash down on the quarterback. We're looking to set the edge. We get hooked at the top, but our linebacker's looking to fill away. Because he's not in a hurry to get outside here, because he's waiting here in this hole. I mean, you can do it we like to have him do it one of two ways. Fill it or sit on it. So he's flowing with this cutback lane, and sure enough, he bounces it right to him. Which is also why we have our backside safety play the same way. He's got to cut back away. We're not really in a hurry. He can help fill that hole late if it really bounces out or the linebacker misses the tackle. Trips. Just going to see jet sweep. So now we're looking at outside run again. We got a Liz call. This is a 3-by-1. The one exception to our alignment based off of what I told you in the Prezi is it's into the boundary. So we don't necessarily need to split 2 to 1 because there's not a whole lot of stuff they can do outside. Everything's either going to be vertical or across the field. We'll get a better look here. One thing you'd like to see, or you'd want to see if you could go back, is have this linebacker bump over a hair and be head up of his guard. He overcompensates and he makes up for it by bumping with the motion here. Waits for his hole, comes across. You got everybody coming down. If you're a guy that uses a tight angle and an end zone angle, sometimes you don't always get the camera moving quick enough to go with the flow. So I do apologize. Here we go. Talking about playing an overhang and bumping bumping our end over. Here's that example that we saw in the Prezi. Here's the wide of it. So we got trips tight, quarterback power, we got a jet motion. We're going to have a pulling guard coming across. This is a great segue too, and I know we talked about bleeding and scraping with our linebackers who gets pulls from their guards. You're going to see a little bit of both of that. So we bump over there, 4-eye. Plays coming. And's trying to block up to the linebacker because we have an overhang. He's got to work up to the mic. So now he gets the nose. We've made him he's a B-gap player still. Instead of crashing, he's just taking that inside gap. He's going to take on this block. You're going to see here actually what this tailback's doing is he's actually going to come up and try to seal this in from crashing down. We got our mic scraping the alley. We got everything set. This is a good play. They call that a horse collar, if you can believe it or not. If you'd like to debate that with me, you've got my email address. But it's a pretty soft call, in my opinion. Here's the end zone view. Down, so we follow the down block. We got pulling. He's there to kick out. That jet's going to kick out the end to keep him from following. Boom. Quarterback power. Here we go. Here's another look. We're running power, one back. Got a new guy you saw in the previous clip from this game, short clipped in the wide, which is probably one thing that drives me crazy on Saturdays. Seeing short clipped footage. New kid doing film. Rookie moves here, it is what it is. We'll go to the to the end zone. You'll like that view better anyways. We'll let this one run out though. You'll see we get a good scrape over the top from our mic to the alley, and our wheel's going to fill here pretty good. I'm sorry, that's our Sam filling. And because we get such a good crash from our end here, it disrupts everything. So this is what we're looking to see. We got one-on-one with the nose in the center. No real need to kind of draw that up. But this is what the scheme is they're looking to get on us. Like to see the safety plate tighter down, inside out, but I'll take what I get. Nothing's going to be perfect. And does a good job. You'll see he crashes down pretty hard. Sam does a good job filling, and we get a good scrape from the mic. Asking him to get up there to the wheels, that's an impossible task. That's a hard block, especially when he's reading this guard here. And the way we crash, it's putting him in a no-win situation. Get a counter step. Everything fills. Crash. Our our end actually takes out 2. It worked out really well. But because we talk about backside pursuit, flows away. But he looks down, he's coming to bleed. Our linebacker's coming to bleed. He's going to scrape over, and he actually makes this play here at the end. Leading tackler with more assists than solos. Here we go. Quarterback power. On a gun here, one back look. We got eligible here, and then we got an eligible end at the top. What you're going to see here is the backer at the top. He's going to fill, and he's going to bleed this pull, and he's going to make a really good play. Good group effort there at the end. Talk about hats on the ball. See him coming across. He's actually out of position. You'll see in the end zone look, but it leaves him unaccounted for. And he reads his key and does his job. We get a crash. Our Sam can work over the top. Our Will fills. Their guard, he don't know what to do, but it's our benefit. And this is also, talk about keys and reads. Here we're cross keying this. So what you got here is he's reading his guard. If you don't know what cross key is, linebackers reading the guards in front. And my Will on my left, he's actually going to read this tailback. But because this guard pulls, he will bleed or scrape. So that's a big key. That's like the key. And then, so that means this linebacker then is reading his guard, which looks like he's trying to double. And he's going to read this quarterback, which allows him to come over the top, which you'll see in the as we progress through this film example. The Mike, he's going to read through to the backfield through this guard. His reads can be kind of tough, which is why we typically like to have a guy that can command a double team. But when you got a guy that can cause disruptions, you just ask your Mike to read a guard and make a play. Here we go. We're going to talk about trap here. We'll look at trap, and we're going to look at a good bleed. This backfield is one of the biggest backfields we saw all season. 200-pound kids. Our leading tackler is 5'7", 5'8", 150 pounds, soaking wet. But he's going to bleed this like no other. And he's going to go for a little bit of a ride here at the end. Take on the guard, a bit far upfield, but we bleed and we get in on that. Keep it from being a big gain, because if he doesn't bleed, we're going to ask one of our safeties, 135, 145-pound safety, to make a play on that big bruiser. Here it is from the tight. So we're looking, you'll see here, this is a good example of showing the bleed from the end zone and what depth he gets with his bleed. You'll see it's not very deep. It's right down the line of scrimmage, which is why we always talk about line of scrimmage awareness. And you'll also see over here what happens when you do not get good hands on the end and crash B from the outside. Our linebacker is going to pay for it here. Our Sam is going to pay for it, and our Will does a good job with his bleed because he's the one that helps make this play. See, he's right down the line of scrimmage. He gets good penetration. You'll see without this crash here, the end gets a free release and seals off our linebacker. Assignment football. Phil, he comes down, makes a play. The way things work out here, if you're paying attention to the whole clip, the way things work out, if he's not in the mix there, that's a big gainer. Here we go. We're going to talk a little option now. We're talking midline. You'll see we'll get dive. And's going to read the dive here. He's going to read quarterback. We're going to have our end play dive, our linebacker play the dive, and our end's going to crash down on quarterback. Mike's going to scrape, like we talked about in the Prezi. Basically, he's trying to play all three. And you'll see a great example of what all three keys will look like here. The safety does a great job making a shoestring on this big old boy. We want to force, what we want to do here in the way we play it, we don't want to slow play the quarterback under any scenario. Do we ever preach slow play the quarterback? We want our ends to attack and make him force a pitch as soon as possible. And if they don't run the option well, they don't run it very often, it works into our favor. Some teams like to try to throw it in there to keep you honest. And obviously, the teams that run it well. But with this attack approach, it works out in our favor more times than not, and you'll see here. It gives our safety enough time to get out there, read, and take a good angle. He over pursues it. We got our linebacker Phil's dive. Force a pitch. We're not going to get a good wide here as far as taking on the pitch, but you get the idea from the sideline. But here's what it looks like. We read the dive. Good fill, he pulls. Ideally, as we get a good crash here, I want that in. Force a quicker pitch, but he does a good job. Like I said, this isn't a team that runs a lot of option. They're a team that wanted to get downhill on us anyways. So this is a serviceable look as far as what we expect from an end. Here we're going to see a load. We do see some load, some lead. Really only different is the linebacker that's coming over that would play quarterback to pitch like you would versus speed is going to take on the load. And then we got the mic scraping, and we still have a safety to play the pit. They don't run it very well, but this is an example of what we would see and how we play it. Typically, they'll try to load up on the end, so they don't do a good job here. Blocks down, supposed to kick out our end. Goes to quarterback, force the pitch. You see his safety leave the screen. He's off down, pick up the pitch. We got 5 guys on the ball. Pistols, speed option with a jet motion. We're going to put a tough read on the quarterback with our end and our linebacker here. He's going to think he's got room to cut it up instead of make the pitch. We got the mic in the scraping and through the alley. Make a good play. We got a doubles pistol look here. We're going to see speed option. We got jet motion across the formation. Remember, this is one of those instances, since we are split out, we will have our Sam linebacker. He's going to sit out here in apex. And when this motion goes across here, it actually leaves him in the perfect position here to play overhang on the option. Play quarterback really well, especially because their guard gets on our end pretty good. However, 3-on-3, we got numbers in the box, allows our Mike to scrape really well through the alley. You'll see our safety here at the top. This is an instance where we're going to play outside in. He's going to come here, but as we've got 1, 2, so he'll end up actually working out over this way. And that's the look here that we want from our safety. We got good. We're stretching it out. Our end doesn't get his read like he needs to. That's all right. It's coming down the line. Quarterback's got to force the pitch. Makes the right read on his part. Linebacker's where he needs to be. We got an alley player in our Mike. And we got outside in force player. Outside in force player from our safety. Here's the end zone. See the look. It's a pretty solid look here. We'll zip through this one. Got another one here. Just a quick speed option here. That's what happens when we do crash down. So we got a balanced line set here. So what we're going to see is everybody's trying to work up. They're going to read the end. That's where we come down on the quarterback, make a quick pitch, and we flow. Safety does a good job. Linebackers are doing a good job. He's really working hard to get over that block. That's another thing we expect our linebackers to do is to work over blocks because you got somebody on the pursuit coming from the inside or away from the play to help fill that gap so you can work over. You know, the best thing we can do is cut it back into our teammates. Force the quick pitch. Linebackers are working over. Mike's trying to scrape. And does a good job making the play. Play action. Let's start talking about pass. Play action. We're going to get a simple 2-man route combination, 3-man route combination. Outs, I believe. What you see here is this is what we want in the passing game, especially play action. We don't get a good job from our end at the top of the screen getting hands, what we do here at the bottom. That's all right. Our linebackers do make good collision. If you look at their guards there, they pretty much give it away. That's why I talk about that being our first read for our linebackers. You'll see they make that read here and are able to make collision with those two ends as they release upfield. So here, with the fullback coming out, he's working into the flats as we get a vertical release from the end here at the bottom. That is the linebackers to take. So that's really working. Well, in this case, it would be working 1 to 2, but nothing shows in the flat. So he could push with that vertical release until something shows, which it does. Mike's playing hole. He starts to chase, come back. Our nose makes a good job playing, trying to keep that pocket contained. We don't need to see the end zone on that one here. We got a hitch, a go, and a slant working left to right from a defensive perspective here. This is where we're talking about solo calls. We got a solo here. One thing I would tell him different right now is not to let him beat you outside or open up outside because it creates this window inside. But he plays it over the top, sticks right on it, and then cuts underneath for a good pick. You see, we don't get much movement from the box because we are so wide. So our linebacker, our wheel's not going to get out here very far. But if you look here outside of that, we got this hitch in the go. So we've got our linebacker, our safety covering the deep. You see him still working. And with that hitch that sits right there, we got our Sam sitting right with it. Of course, the ball's in the air by then as well. Makes a good pick. We can see these weak side drops better. Sits, he's looking, we're reading zone. You can see my linebacker here. He's got eyes, we got eyes. You're going to get an out by number 1 here for this boot flood. Number 2's running vertical, so we talk about reading 2 to 1. Okay, so 1 is out. So something has entered the flat zone. He's pushing here, and they can exchange and keep our basic 2D principle. And this safety at the top can stay over the top, and he cuts out. He's flowing here, and we'll push over to the flat with our mic, and our wheel here is going to carry, and then he can come out and force, and we've got help coming across with the safety. Tailback looks to set the edge. He rolls. Our mic can break the coverage and help make a play. See, we talk about collision. You watched our Sam here. He's going to collide and run, and he's pushing over to the flat. See our wheel on the backside and our safety. They've got that backside cross sandwiched in between. Here we can see a force from the mic. Good hands there, good collision, and work over. See a better break from our safety, but if you watch his back pedal, he's backpedaling on his heels, so he's not going to get there real quick anyways. We got a doubles look here. We got a nub. We can look to solo on this side. We're going to see another go, a slant, and a post. Working left to right here as far as from a defensive perspective with the route combinations. Here we talk about, because we have a go, number 1's vertical, so safety cannot crash on this slant. However, the Sam can, and the wheel can and the mic can close. And we got solo one-on-one coverage here. He's dropping to help anything that came quick inside. They tried to run this combination a couple times, and we should have really made them pay for it. Tunnel screen, I'm sure you're wondering, okay, well, what about screens? Okay, here's a doubles. We've got an empty look, actually, so this is more of a trips look with a nub. And, there is 3. I'm sorry, I couldn't see that when I broke this down and write it up. So this is trips look. I talked about our alignment here. You can see we're 2 and 3, 1 and 2, apex between the 3. The way this setup is when we do see screens, especially bubbles and tunnels, the apex player out of a spread look or a 2x1 look, he's going to scream down on the screen. In this 3x look, it'll still be, in this case, it's going to be the Sam. And he does a good job reading it. We still have help over the top with the safety. He's coming down late. You get like that fake off of that with the fake tunnel and the go. So we let him come in late. And then we got the mic, the pursue, and that in too. We teach it to where that quarterback turns his shoulders and he gets ready to fire that ball. You're off and you're down the line of scrimmage. And you'll see here, we do a pretty good job doing that. That's also one of those things we talk about working in pursuit. You come down, take on the block. Mike's coming down, ends off his read. And we got guys flowing to the football. You see what we're working with here. And doesn't do his team any favors there, stretching that far end out that far into the play. Yeah, middle screen here. This actually went for 6 our way. We want one of our linemen, D linemen, to read that screen and draw back. We're not really too picky. We still want to force a throw, so we'll still send 2 as long as one of those guys drop back. And you'll see it here in our mic, and we read it really well. Our Mike reads this well, and he comes after and makes a play. Our Will makes a play right here, and it was a big play for us. We call this middle. Some of you may call it tunnel. So our end reads it. He makes a great play. I mean, right now the play's dead anyways, but our Will comes through and makes a huge highlight play. Make a good play here. End reads it. Pick 6. Looking at a bubble screen or quick flare. Tailback's going to flare out. We're going to spread look here. We're actually sending one. So here's another freebie. So it leaves it on our mic. And even if we weren't sending one, it'd be the Will. He'd be the one to attack this quick throw. But I wanted to put it in here to answer any questions. Okay, what about the screen game? So this is kind of a couple examples, some basic screens that we tend to see and how we tend to play it. Here's a freebie. Like I said, freebie, one of our pressures here. This is an over. Just bring the backer over the nose, whether it's the Will or the Sam. Safety's still here. I don't know if you noticed. Safety's still working outside in. Here's a deep crossing China concept. China's and mesh, like we talked about, crossing routes here. Almost have a pick where we play it here. We're carrying our routes with our linebackers underneath. We get lucky here. We get a good push from our DN. This is another reason why we jam 8 falls. I mean, that's a bonus for us. Here's a good look at the underneath. Sometimes when we do get a good push from our ends, they push themselves out of the rush, and you'll see that here at the bottom. He'll kind of push him and ride him out to the flat, which, I mean, really, it brings an extra defender into coverage, and it still works out for us because we are athletic up front enough to make him throw or take off. Got 3 vertical and a drag. This is one we're going to carry across. So because of this deuce look, so we got a 2x2 set. We got a balanced line. We're going to get those who push vertical we'll have to run with. And we'll just carry the drag across to the empty, to the open linebacker, excuse me. Hands, so we get an out here, you see. We got vertical. So that linebacker, that's his job anyways, to flat. Playing deep hole here because we got vertical routes. The only issue here is we give up contain. Breaks the pocket. No, it is what it is. Come back, we make a play, we rally to the football. Get hands. We wall off, our Sam walls off that vertical release, keeping him from running up the inside of the seam. Nose keeps his feet, probably gets a sack. Here we go. We got quads, 2x2 set. I'm gonna see ins and goes. Sort of like a mesh combo. Here we'll look to crash this in. We look to carry as we carry the one across, because here we got pattern concept. 2 goes out, 1 came in. So our safety here, he'll still cover it deep with 2 as he comes out. I know it looks like a wheel, but because 1's coming in, the linebacker's not going to follow. Good coverage. Here's another play action with jet motion. We're going to trips tight. We got a go and a post. We got a 2-man route combination. Because we have a drag across the field, so this is more, we kind of call this mesh, but I mean, you can call it what you want. Because we have a drag at first, as he pushes vertical, our safety is going to drop. And as he comes across the field, he's going to work towards vertical threats. He comes over, and our Mike's going to carry across. We got deep, and they're going to pick it up. Because it's play action, we got a run dominant wheel linebacker. He ate the run. We tell the guys, if you get eaten up on play action and you read run, just go. Just go to the quarterback, try to make a play. We'll make what we can in coverage. We got trips tight. We got a 3x1 set. This isn't a solo call, but if he does release vertical and out, he will help. We're apexed here. Split the difference between 2 and 3. Obviously, we're between 1 and 2. Look for deep. Anything that pushes out. If not, we're looking to take anything vertical. Looking for a seam by 3 or anything coming across. Makes a good play on the football here. One-on-one matchup. Look across here. You got vertical release. If you watch the stem at the top, he's going to get hands on 2 as he breaks outside. So he's going to push with. You get a drag by this number 3 receiver. So he's going to get picked up by the Mike. And safety's one-on-one with a vertical at the top of the screen. And we got a one-on-one matchup here at the bottom as well. Make a good play on the ball. We're athletic, so there are some things we do in the secondary, work high point, things like that, that every group should be doing anyways. If we really see it translate on film, especially when you got a 5'9" corner or safety against a 6'2" receiver. Long arms. So it worked out to our favor, and that's it, fellas. That's what I got for you. If you got any questions, I gave my information there at the beginning of the film. Feel free to reach out if you need anything, if I can help you with anything, or you want to talk fire zone or some of the pressures that you may have caught in some of those later clips in our passing game. Yeah, we can talk about it, and I can be more than happy to share it with you.